This worked. Look who's been on the show. You know, Joe Hendry, Cardona, Dan Reichert. Hello, I'm Matt Kemp. That's me. I'm the wrestling Matt. I don't call myself that in public. If you see me, just say hi, Matt. That's fine. Or whatever. Hey, Camp. Hey, dumbass, who I see do all those best ofs all the time. I answer to that as well. And I answered all of you in the chat. What's going on? Happy new wrestling week. Who says happy Monday? It's Monday. I get it. I hope I can provide a little entertainment for you on this Monday or whenever you may be watching. Hello, welcome in. It is the Wrestling Mat. As always, head over to thewrestlingmatshow.com. Become a subscriber. Do that for free. Subscribe to the podcast. Do that for free. You want to help out a little more? Hey, become a member. We got so much coming your way this month. Good to be with you. Good to have you all there. Joseph, what's going on? Coming off of a very newsworthy wrestling weekend, as you might expect, with Bad Blood. Announcements at Bad Blood. We know we're going for Crown Jewel. Gonna say it's a little bit of a letdown, what we're told about Crown Jewel. I'll get to that, though, on the show today. 2-hour Raw tonight. Fab it up. 2 hours of Raw tonight. 2 hours. A neat and tidy 2 hours. 8 to 10. Catch the last quarter and a half of the football game, uninterrupted. 8 to 10. I did NXT, the watch party last week. And if you were, by the way, if you were a Matt member, you were there for that. That NXT CW show last week, helping that I was talking to you guys, it felt like it flew by. 2 hours is a breeze. 2 hours is the number for pro wrestling. Want to go 2:15, a little overrun? Thanks to our generous partners, something like that? Yeah, go ahead. That's fine. 2 hours. Save the long stuff for the pay-per-views. 2 hours is the number. I am also not at the top of WWE. I am also not running USA Network. And I know that third hour is worth a lot of money. I get it. But I did think it was funny that I saw a lot of people in the wrestling world going, woo, 2 hours, yeah! It's not a break. I don't want to say it's a break. It's not a break. We get to watch wrestling and talk about it for a living. I'm not complaining. But 1 hour less is not a bad thing. Just gives you a minute to breathe. A little extra time to breathe. So thank you for welcoming us into the 2 hour Raw era for a couple months. Although I guess Triple H was asked about this at the press conference and said, well, we'll see. We're working on that. He also said some stuff about color, and that. What I will say about that is go to the Montez Ford video we did here at the WrestlingMatchShow.com. Go into the comments section and then go watch what Triple H said about the lack of representation on Bad Blood this weekend. And that's all I'll tell you to do. But what are we going to get to today? We're going to talk about Hell in a Cell from Saturday. Punk and Drew. Holy hell. Literally, I guess. They lit it up. Which will also lead us to talking about 5 years ago today, when I was not sitting in this seat. No. I was across America. I was in Sacramento, California. I was 1 month into my WWE career on the set of Watch Along, which has now been dead for 3 years. And I was watching a great pay-per-view until the main event. The Fiend Seth Rollins for the championship, for the Universal Championship. Red light, horror movie. Me watching it with various WWE personalities, Natalya, and Hall of Fame guest Sean Waltman. And we tried to make sense of that finish. And you want to have me get tested in the first month of being with the company? Oh, boy, did I. We will get to that today. I know I've talked about it a little bit on the show. I want to tell you a little bit more about that because it did go on social media. We'll get to that coming up in a little bit. Also, though, the rest of Bad Blood. You want to talk about Fiend and Seth Rollins, the opposite of a clean finish. Bad Blood was littered with matches that did not have anything close to clean finishes. And it all happened after an all-time Hell in a Cell match to open the show. I ask you this, we'll get to it coming up on the show. Do premium live events, pay-per-views, do they need to have clean finishes? Do the majority of the matches on a show need to have clean finishes when we are trying to not always climax at the pay-per-view, but take feuds to the higher level? How many interference finishes is too many? That was Bad Blood, other than the opener, which was done to keep everyone else out. And does that leave you wanting more? Is it about the execution of an interference that leaves you wanting more? Or do you go, hey, hold on, this is the big show. This is what we're building to. Why are a million other people getting involved? Why are other people getting involved? Haven't we been doing this on Raw and SmackDown for weeks? So I float that out there to you. And then we'll get back to it. Also, that big announcement that Cody teased in the Pat McAfee show is about a title that won't mean a damn thing. Or as Rob called it, off to Saudi for the biggest house show of the year. I'm going to address that because I didn't think it was that way for a long time. I didn't. At the beginning of this Saudi deal, absolutely it was. And then it wasn't for a while. Are we back there? Did the announcement we got at Bad Blood about that champion of whatever that big gold green thing they had, does that do anything for you? Does that give you excitement? I'll tell you one thing it doesn't give to me: stakes that matter. You know I love stakes. I think everybody in sports and entertainment loves stakes. Drama is a good thing. Something to play for, something to win for, something to battle for is a good thing. If that thing matters in the end. If that thing is worth a damn. If the conclusion makes the winner seem more important. They hold a championship. They hold a trophy. What did it mean? I don't know what that title's supposed to mean other than they want a champion match in Saudi and they wanted to have something that seemed big for Saudi Arabia. And maybe people will love it. And maybe they will add something to that because you win this, you've earned that. I'll give you more thoughts on that coming up. All right. Here we go. A lot of good comments here. Good to see some of you guys. Good to see some of you guys. Good to see all of you. Good to see some of you agreeing with me, throwing your thoughts on there. Appreciate that. Hello to Nerdy Dude, Dennis, Droy, Rob, Zach. If you're listening via podcast, come on over and check it out. So much more that we have at thewrestlingmatchshow.com. Become a Matt member. Now, Dom, if you could throw up the tweet that was posted this morning that reminded people of a time from 5 years ago today. Here it is. This is all of us watching the Hell in a Cell main event from 2019, October 7th, 2019. The Fiend, Seth freaking Rollins. Was he freaking at the time? I don't think he was freaking yet. For the Universal Championship. And on this day in WWE said, Sean Waltman probably got X-Pac heat from this one for what he said. Maybe Matt can't tell you later. And I tweeted, I said, we will cover that. Now, I've talked about this a little bit on the show. So, Seth Rollins, days prior to this, was the very first in-studio, first guest ever on the bump. Came in as the Universal Champion. We loaded up the show. Adam Cole was on. I can't remember who else was on. Maybe Charlotte. But Seth was on. And if you guys remember, The Fiend had that big debut with Finn at SummerSlam. And the entrance and everything. Oh, my, what the hell was that? Oh, this guy's... And then it got out via advanced marketing that Seth Fiend was happening at Hell in a Cell. Now that, I will tell you, now you don't see this much anymore, that advanced promotional stuff has always been a thing. Sometimes it's just faces on a poster. Sometimes it promotes a stip type of match like War Games. Sometimes it promotes a return or, hey, Roman's on that poster and we haven't seen him, or Brock's on that poster and we haven't seen him. They seem to be a bit smarter about what they put on those advanced materials. You want to sell the show, you want to sell tickets, but you don't want to give up too much. I totally get that. For whatever reason, the Seth Fiend match got, I don't know if you want to call it leaked. I don't know if you want to call it revealed too soon. And they did it. And so a couple of months into what should be a special attraction, someone who probably shouldn't be anywhere near the championship as he's relaunching a new gimmick, ends up in this title match with Seth Rollins, a babyface. A very clear babyface who had to overcome a lot that year. Brock Lesnar. That's the year Seth beats Brock to open up Mania. He had done a lot to get to that point. He was starting to get over. He was starting to get over the way they wanted him to get over as a babyface champion. And they run him into the Fiend, who had just gotten a great reaction at SummerSlam against the babyface Finn, and instead they lean into the horror movie character aspect of it, and they make him a heel. And unfortunately for Seth, he was fighting an uphill battle. And I remember interviewing him on the show, and he's got to like sell the Fiend and kind of be a little scared, and he's more unsure and uncertain. But it was very much like, what's this going to be? And that pay-per-view is very good. It's a very good, the Becky and Sasha match is excellent. It's a very strong show. The crowd was very good. So that's my first watch along. Now, I'm a month into working there. I am days from being on WWE programming for the very first time as part of the bump. Injury report, all that stuff. And you're going to watch long. We want to introduce the members of the bump cast, a little bit here and there, and that's a good way to get you. So there's a couple of us there. And it was very much like, all right, you'll be on for these matches. And at some point, it was just like, just stay out there. We know you can kind of cover time. And I remember talking to Tyson Kidd and Cesaro. Claudio's in there. And it was a host of people. That's honestly where I started my unintentional feud with Xavier Woods about taking the studio. The Up, Up, Down, Down studio is also the Bump studio. And that's where I revealed that who would be your dream guest on the Bump. I want Todd Pettengill. And then he was on Watch Long a few months later. It was fun, though, being on there, interacting with people, talking, and then we get the main event. And they put the red lights on, and I'm learning, okay, we're selling that product. I don't know what the finish is. And I was not keyed in. Sometimes I knew finishes, sometimes I didn't. It just depended. Sometimes they were in the Raw drafts or SmackDown drafts or PLE. Sometimes they weren't, which is fine. I didn't need to know. I didn't want to know. You want to have some direction just in case. But I wasn't told anything. So we're watching this, and there's that clip that's there from On This Day in WWE, and people bringing that up. And we're watching this match, and you gotta kind of talk in kayfabe ways, you know. Oh, Seth, is he going to go to these lengths? Once again, you're an actor. You're playing a part in the show. Sean doesn't know the finish. Nobody in there really knows the finish. So Seth's trying to take out the Fiend with whatever he can, and he finally gets that toolbox in. He goes to smash it, and Fiend's underneath. And as soon as he does, you're ding, 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 ding. And that's when everybody's like, huh? And right there, what exactly happened right there? And I don't know. I have no idea what the official finish is, but I'm going, all right, it's Hell in a Cell. And I think Natty said DQ, and X-Pac's like, I don't know if they invite me back if I say this, but you can't do a DQ in a Hell in a Cell. And that's when even though the internet said otherwise, that is when I go, I don't think it's a DQ. I think it's a ref stoppage. And it's like, and that, somebody else repeated, well, it's DQ. Oh, interesting, or something like that. And I'm like, he just, they rang the bell. They're racing the cage. He's still the champ. They did a ref stoppage. Seth won that match, and whether they called it a no, he inflicted too much pain on the Fiend, according to the ref. The referee calls the match. The referee can do that. And I am just trying to make sense of what I'm seeing, because it's a Hell in a Cell. Of course there's no DQ. Or is there? Like, you're not going to get DQ'd for doing too much violence. And I literally am just watching it, trying to make sense. I have no one in my ear telling me, hey, don't say this. I have no one in my ear telling me it's a DQ. I have no one in my ear telling it's a ref stop. Nothing. I am just going. Because I don't think the people on the set that were producing and directing knew. Like I said, they didn't give all the finishes out. And I just try to make sense of it. And we kind of try to get it off the air after that. And, there's the aftermath, and the fans are furious. Furious. Which I've told that story before, Vince being happy about it and Vic blowing him off and all that. But the fans are absolutely furious. So we go on the bump, episode 2. And it's very much like, what do we say about this? We ask. And we get a quote from the referee, who I believe was Rod Zapata. We get like a quote from him. And it, was about discretion or whatever, or why he made the call. And we're literally trying to make sense of it. Wednesday, 3 days after this happens, we are trying to make sense of it, and trying to now tell the audience, here's what happened. And that's the tough part. That is the only thing I would call a tough part of the job when you're on camera, is selling crap, is selling what you know is shit. Everybody knows it's shit. You knew enough to not ask Seth about that after a while, because I know he despised it. And this is not a Seth and Bray. It was making sense of it. Those guys love each other. They did then. Seth, it wasn't about those two guys. Those two guys went in there and executed a crazy man's vision that made no sense, that got the crowd to turn on it. And what purpose does that serve? You're rebranding, you're reintroducing who the Fiend is, and you have a babyface world champion that you're really trying to go with now as a babyface. You let him beat Brock. You had him defeat Brock Lesnar. You made a point to do that. And now you book yourself into a corner with the Fiend, and then what do? Then they have the Fiend beat Seth and get somewhat of a pop in Saudi Arabia. And then after that, The Fiend loses to Goldberg, so Goldberg can fight Roman, and then Roman ends up, correctly so, bowing out because of the pandemic and COVID, and we get to Braun and Goldberg instead, which everybody has wiped from their memory, as they should. And the thing is, because I thought about that match even before I saw the post this morning, I said, for Hell in a Cell, once again, this is why you book the match before the pay-per-view stip, because that was already called Hell in a Cell, meaning we got to put something in there. And look, it's a good pay-per-view, but they booked the wrong way. We have Hell in a Cell. Well, we got to put Seth and Fiend in there, even though they don't have. Okay. And they did a lot of violent and physical stuff. You couldn't see shit because of the red light, because we got to overdo it completely. Then you get that finish, and people were kind of bleh on Seth after that. And you didn't want The Fiend to lose that fast, because he did. They called the match. Seth didn't lose the title. Fiend couldn't beat him. Oh, here you go. Rob with a tremendous stat of the 119 pay-per-view premium live events since January 19. Hell in a Cell was the 5th lowest ranked event on Cage Match. 1, 2, and 3 were Saudi events, oddly enough. You know what's interesting about that is it reminds me of this weekend, because that's a good show with a terrible main event. And you see how it gets ranked, how the main event torpedoes a ranking or perception. And I'm not saying Cage Match is everything, because it's not. But the perception is, what the hell did we watch? It's the main event of a show. It's inside Hell in a Cell. And you get a ref stoppage. Mick Foley didn't get a ref stoppage, and he got thrown off the cell and through the cell, amongst other things. No ref stoppage. Yet The Fiend, underneath a bunch of stuff, gets smashed, and it's like, nope, too much. That's it. So you beat the guy you're trying to tell people is indestructible with a ref stoppage 2 months into his relaunch as a character. Seth comes across as kind of a geek because he tried to do enough to win, and he did, and then it's like, wait, we kind of like the guy that's buried under all the, like, it was such booking malpractice across the board. I think it crushed Seth as a babyface. He's wrestling KO in a pretty good match at Mania the next year, but they start the stuff with AOP and all. Like, it just, he never recovered from that. I know he doesn't like that match. Nobody does. But it's a good show. Whereas, as we'll move into this past weekend at Bad Blood, we had all kinds of discussion. You guys were fantastic. Love seeing the comments live, as we're doing today. Love seeing them in the chat. Love seeing them in the comments section. Love seeing them on Twitter. A lot of discussion, not only on this show, but I think across the wrestling landscape, about the main event of what Bad Blood would be. What is it going to be? And a lot of rumors out there, and one ends up happening. The rumors come true. Hell in a Cell opens. Roman and Cody close. And exactly why we thought they would close. Return of The Rock, my Kevin Owens fantasy booking, which we will get to because stuff happened after the show, as you may or may not know. There's The Rock. You were not going to put The Rock anywhere else in the show. I don't think he would want to be anywhere else in the show. But you open the show with a Hell in a Cell match that promised blood. That was the culmination of a feud that, if you really want to dig into it, is about 11 months long. That is the third match between two guys who have made it clear that they want to kill the other guy, that they're going to make the other guy bleed, that they're going to make the other guy beg, that when they go in Hell in a Cell, they don't want to go in there, but this is what this has come to. You couldn't ask for a more perfect build for that match. Little hiccup around SummerSlam has not affected it in a big way. People were hyped. I was legitimately excited for this. As I said, when you're in it as long as I have been in, the stuff that's really good is what makes you stand out, makes you sit up. I was looking forward. I was genuinely looking forward to sitting down and watching this match. And those two guys absolutely delivered. Absolutely gave life to a match that is hard to execute when we're in the 50s of how many times it has happened in 27 years. The expectations when you bring up blood to actually execute that and be allowed to execute that. And believe me, as much as I have said, hey, they can use working blood, and they have, those guys were bleeding. Punk's was, from what I could tell, as expected, and Drew had stitches here. He's hurting. I can tell you that for sure. He's hurting. I would assume he probably would have bled at some point anyway. He just happened to bleed here. Someone hit me up. It's like, I'm just watching now. Damn, what happened to Drew? And I said, it's in his scalp, but I don't know how. It happened. The wrench stuff was good. The punches at the end. So somebody mentioned this. I think it was Tom Green or Rob Naylor or somebody. They had a punch back and forth, not too much, towards the end. And it was just two guys at the end of their rope throwing bombs. Not yay, boo, like rearing back and throwing a hell of a punch. Like, here's what I got. I got nothing else left. We've used everything. I'm just going to hit you in the face. The weaponry used was good. The barbaric nature of it connected. The beads was a nice touch. The table spots were good. Oh my, that superplex to the outside. My goodness. And I'll tell you the one thing that got me, obviously the toolbox. Drew missing the Claymore and his lower back hitting that step was as gnarly of a bump as you will see without too much other stuff. Like, I'm talking, he just missed a move. And the way he hit that thing, I winced. And I know everybody else did too. There ain't no prepping for that one. That you're not running through. That, look, I don't know how he thought he was going to land. I don't know if that was the plan. It was going to be bad no matter what, which is the point, obviously, at that stage of the match. Holy hell. I don't care how big you are. I don't care how many bumps you've taken. That's one of those where you just do it. And then you feel it later, and I'm sure he is. Those guys probably made Hell in a Cell a very hard match to book in the future. And I mean, that is the biggest possible compliment I can give. I said on Friday, you know, they're going to finish that match and there's going to be a follow that mentality. Tough enough to do for the rest of Saturday, tough enough to do for the next people that step into that match. Fantastic, perfectly booked. Exactly what that should be. You check every box you need to check. The baby face goes over. The heel has wounds to lick, but is obviously not done yet. I will say, after the match was over, I loved Punk selling the hell out of it. I'm going to stand tall because I'm a proud MFer. Oh, God, all the energy just ran out of my body. I fell down. Like, that's a sell job. And I liked, a little weird that everybody was like, we're going to go get Drew. Hold on, we got to save Punk. And then they kind of went. But I did like, I think it took nothing away from Punk's win. Drew kind of seeing Drew's face and his eyes opened after. Punk won the feud. Drew wasn't dead. And I know that's ridiculous, Mike. Of course he wasn't dead. But my point is they showed him. They showed him with his eyes open. They showed him covered in blood. He was down. And he was down for 3. But he is not out. That was the look of a man who was angry he was defeated, who was destroyed. But he wasn't put to sleep for good. He was put to sleep for 3. Both men went through it. I think back to Triple H Taker at WrestleMania 27. Triple H loses, but Taker, it took so much out of him that he's the one that leaves on a cart. Both men said, when we walk in here, because we've done it before, how we walk out will be lesser. We will not be at that level anymore. This will take something away from our careers. And then they went and executed that as a way to build the match. You say those things. You talk about blood. But to be able to execute that and get that across in a pro wrestling match and to complete it, to land the plane, not easy to do. Not easy to do. Not easy to be able to have those expectations on you that you put on yourself and then nail it. And they did. It's what Punk needed, without a doubt. He's looked better in each match so far. I thought he looked slow at the Rumble. Obviously got hurt, so there's some understanding there. I thought he looked okay at SummerSlam. He looked better in the strap match, and he looked his best at Bad Blood. That's the CM Punk people want to get behind. That's the CM Punk who is operating at a high level. And when he's operating at that high level, he is damn good. And I give credit to Drew, who was with him every step of the way and ahead of him at points in this feud. Those guys executed to perfection. And now it leaves you wondering where to go. And that is how they open the show. Now, I told you guys, okay, if we know what's opening and closing the show, where do you put everything else? I think I hit the match order right on the money, if I remember correctly. They follow with Bayley and Nia. Then they went to the Finn and Priest match. Then they did Liv and Rhea, and then the tag in the main, and the Triple H thing in between. You do Bayley and Nia. You do some callbacks to their other matches. It's a solid match. It had no chance whatsoever of following Hell in a Cell. They got him a little bit at the end. Tiffany gets involved. Is she going to cash in? She doesn't. Nia gets the Undertaker spot, which admittedly popped me. And then Nia still wins. So you've protected Bayley on a rematch. She already lost. You want to put your champion over, you do it a little cleaner. Or the next 3 matches don't have run-ins, which brings us to Priest and Finn. Solid match, run-ins. Priest still able to defeat Finn, which kind of makes it like Judgment Day are losers. Because Priest, they were chanting for Yeet. They didn't get it. He just took care of them. And Finn. So you've now dropped Judgment Day in my eyes in terms of their positioning and what they are. I think I saw somebody say it was like Priest just swatting them away like flies, because that's all you've presented them as. Rhea and Priest have gotten a lot of beatdowns on Judgment Day in a 2-on-5 whatever situation. They've already done that plenty of times, probably more than they should. And then Priest goes out there and takes care of business. You know, Finn obviously could be lying about not wanting help and all that, and that's just heel stuff. But, okay, there you go. There's another one. And then we go to Liv and Rhea. And they much like they did at SummerSlam, they have Rhea sell a body part. SummerSlam, the shoulder stuff. This was the leg, the knee, whatever. Keeps Liv in the match. But Rhea, and this is when logic went out the window. Dom apparently picks the lock or whatever. And he's free. And he's hanging there. And he's not that high up. But high up enough. And he gets hung up for some reason. And Liv is taken out. Maria's taken out Liv and throws her back in and breaks the count. And she goes out there. And she tells the ref, Dan Engler, which we hear intentionally, clear as day on the ref cam, I need 1 minute. Which to me is longer than 10 seconds. Which is a count out. I need 1 minute. And the ref goes, yeah, I think you've earned that or you deserve that. What? You know what the old stip that was connected to that used to be? You get 5 minutes in the ring with that person if you beat him. That used to be an old wrestling stip. The manager has messed up the babyfaces matches, cost them for too long. You know what? If you win, you get 5 minutes alone with them in the ring. You know who was great at that? This guy right here, Bobby the Brain Heenan. Here's the weasel suit. If he loses a match, whoever puts the weasel suit on him. Warrior did it a bunch of times. The manager always gets the heat and gets the scamper away. When you got to give him his comeuppance, it means more. That's why when Stokely Hathaway got beat up by Hook or tagged with Samoa Joe or beat up by Ishii, why? Because he's a shit stirrer and then he gets his comeuppance. Bobby the Brain did that all the time, and then sometimes you get it. Dominic has messed with Rhea and turned on her. If Rhea wins the match, she gets her 5 minutes with Dom, which, by the way, they still could have done with the same run-in from Raquel. Now, then you'd have to do a title change, and that is where they ran into trouble. A, you throw logic out the window when the referee's like, yeah, you can go beat him up with a kendo stick. I'll let that go. It wasn't if it's a special guest referee, sure, whatever. They can let that go. They understand. This was a WWE referee going, yeah, I'll give you the extra time. Go ahead, beat him up. Adam Pearce, what kind of power do your referees have? So she starts to get him. And then Raquel comes in from a weird angle and hits her. Everybody's like, what? And I went, as soon as she hits her, and I'm looking at the ref sees it. So there wasn't like it was a distraction. No, the ref sees it, gets Rhea back in, and we get a DQ. And Raquel everything just got completely out of sync. It was overbooked. It was a flat. Oh, I said it out loud. I went, oh, flat finish. Ooh, that was flat. All you had to do for Raquel was put her under the ring. You have Dom hanging out of the cage. He can't help Liv. As I said the other day, they should do the Finn and Damian match first, because you could say that Priest took out enough of the Judgment Day. Nobody is there to help Liv or Dom. And you know what I would have done? I would have done the Keith Lee spot with Finn Balor in the corner. I would have had her raise up because she's a couple inches taller than Rhea, out of the corner. And you could have done a referee distraction, and Raquel could have fucked her up. You could have had Liv with the referee on the outside trying to help Dominic, whatever. And you bring Raquel into frame as someone who is equal to, if not bigger than Rhea. And you let the announcers go, oh my God, it's Raquel Rodriguez. She might be the only person who can match power with Rhea Ripley. What does she do? Oh my goodness. Instead, you get the sideways running. Rhea gets a little bit on Dom. But because Raquel attacks Rhea, you have to call for the DQ. It wasn't like Liv was, selling on the inside and the referee's checking on her. And then it was kind of like, like it was almost like, well, I guess we got to call for a DQ now. She hits the Tahana bomb, and then she puts Liv on top of her for a pin that doesn't matter. I don't know if this was overbooked. I don't know if something was poorly timed. I don't know if Liv was supposed to get the win. Flat. Very flat. And they can heat this back up tonight. I am well aware of that. Rhea's still over. Rhea will still be on her revenge tour, blah, blah, blah. But there is another finish where Rhea Ripley had to deal with Liv, Dom, and Raquel. And she still won by DQ. So we go interference in the same feud. And we are now 4 matches deep with 1 outstanding match and 3 matches with interference that felt like Raw finishes or SmackDown finishes or TV finishes. And you're doing all of that knowing what the main event's going to be. You're doing all of that knowing we're going to see Tama Tonga Loa. We're going to see Jimmy Uso. We're going to see The Rock. We're going to have all kinds of very typical bloodline stuff going on. And you still do distraction interference, DQ with interference. I don't understand that. It's a PLE. And I asked, now I come back to this. You could do that once. You can maybe do it twice. But on a show with 5 matches, 5, that's it. You're telling me you're building this up for weeks at a time. You're using TV time on this. You've done whatever. And then you just do more of the same. And you don't give me definitive finishes. I guess Priest is definitive enough. I guess. He's the only one that when he won, it was over. Nia wins, and it's like, well, what's going on here? And she had Tiffany involved. And obviously, Liv loses by DQ. So what's going on? Even in the main event, right? You get to the main event. Big entrance for Roman. Big entrance for Cody. They win the match. Jimmy appears. Helps, his presence helps. He's back with Roman. By the way, Cody came off like a bit of an afterthought in that whole thing. They show Cody in the corner. And they leave. And Jimmy's talking to Roman. And the guys who just got beat get to beat up Cody again. So Roman comes back in his first match since WrestleMania. He wins, as you'd expect with Roman and Cody, and yet the guys who beat him, or the guys who got beat, I should say, still get to look decent enough and get more on Cody, get more on the WWE champion, who now has to be bailed out by Roman Reigns and Jimmy. And Jimmy's got to talk him into it. And then they're standing there, and then here comes The Rock. 1, 2, 3, whatever. He has his belt that he had Muhammad Ali's wife pretend to give him, which already existed, that thing. I know heels, I've said this, we've talked about it, should look dumb. And I mean look dumb by like how they look and how they present themselves, and Dom's hair and like, oh God, I want to punch that guy in the face. I am all for that. I talked about the Seth character and how flamboyant and loud he dressed as a heel. And it's like, oh, this attention whore, whatever you want to call it. Rock doesn't have that title over his shoulder to have people like call him out and be like, oh, that's goofy, or, he looks so ridiculous with that. People are saying that. It's not the point. The point is for him to be the people's champion and for him to have a title that Muhammad Ali's wife gave him, and it's supposed to be prestigious. I promise you, it's not meant to make him look dumb. There is no chance in hell he would have that happen. So he comes out with his title that he didn't win and points to them and that's it. And as I expected, this was always going to build to more. People were mad at Cody for tagging with Roman Reigns. Do we think that The Rock is mad at the Roman and maybe Jimmy for being side by side with Cody Rhodes? So now you have people close to both of them, Cody and Roman, asking, hey, what are you doing with the other guy? JDV says, did you hear that Solo has leaked during the Rock return that he said, quote, that was part of the plan from a video package from fans? Yes, I saw the bloodline go up into the stands. Still standing, by the way. Still standing after all that. They lose the match. They beat up Cody. Then Roman and Jimmy come into the thing. We still see them standing, which was a point to show that. So even though they lost in the main event, they still got a little bit more back on Cody, the champ, and they were standing going up into the crowd. They were not done for. And Solo says that. And I, that could have easily been a plant. Believe me, they are very good right now at how they know social media and promotion can be done by the fans alone. Which brings me, of course, to what happened after the show. Not captured by WWE socials, not posted on WWE socials, but seen in clear view of fans outside of the Wheatley Vodka bus. Kevin and Cody having a very animated discussion, and then Kevin hauls off and punches him in the face. And then, my friends, and if you are in your first few years as a wrestler and you're watching, or you're an indie, whatever, if you want to know what it means to work snug and make your stuff look good, watch Kevin lay those mostly kicks in on Cody. That's how you do it. That stuff looked good. There was viciousness behind what he was doing. But why? Why did he punch him in the face? What did Cody say to him? I have said I would rather slow burn the Kevin turn. Apparently not the case. Now what? Because Cody, let's take stock of where Cody is. Cody won the match because he was on the winning team. He didn't win the match. He got beat down after the match. He got saved by Roman and Jimmy. He got beat up by by Kevin Owens. And earlier in the night, which is exactly what Cody had teased on the Pat McAfee show. We're going to do something at the show, and it's going to set up the title picture or have the championship, whatever, at Crown Jewel. And Triple H comes out, and I thought when I saw the sheet, I was like, all right, it's a title. I thought we were getting a secondary women's championship. All right, let's see how we do this. And then it's going to be champion versus champion. And the winner's going to get this big green thing. So, as of right now, Cody Gunther, there it is. The Crown Jewel champion. Which means what? More or less prestigious than the Braun Strowman green belt he won for the greatest Royal Rumble. Does that get held up? And then we never see it again? Does Cody or Gunther wear it days after the show? Do they wear it on the next Raw or SmackDown? Did Saudi ask for a championship? Because they can do that. And they can get those kind of things. Because now we've taken a detour. Is it a meaningful detour? Do you care that Cody right now is going to wrestle Gunther, depending on what happens with Sami and Gunther tonight? Because there's two parts to this segment. One, that championship. Two is what happened after. We'll get to that in a minute. Because I have a completely different feeling about that. But they show this title, and I go, are we going to, I don't want to say throw it away, but it kind of feels like that Cody Gunther match is wasted in this story. Like, that's a big match to me. That's a very big match. That was a big match as soon as they finished that Rumble last year. And now it's a champion versus champion match where they get a big green title that, as far as I know so far, doesn't mean anything. What that tells me is you're going to beat one of your world champions. You're going to beat two of your world champions on the same night. For what? You're going to beat Cody or Gunther. Or you're going to do a DQ or tie or what. I don't think this is the time to beat a champion if you're not taking the title off of him or her. Now you also have a heel Nia against a heel Liv. Now that certainly, at least to me, puts Tiffy in play for a cash-in because you have both champions out there. And they did make a point to say, Graves said it like 3 times on SmackDown and or the pay-per-view. Well, Tiffy could go after Liv Morgan. Tiffy could go after Roxanne. She could go after Kalani Jordan in the NXT North American Championship. So they've made that point. I can at least say, all right, there is, once again, not about the match, but who could get involved, intrigue over Liv and Nia because there could be a run in here. There could be a new champion in a match where the titles aren't on the line. So Rob said it's time for the Saudi house show. They haven't really done that. I will say that in the last couple of years, especially when I was there, those last couple of years, it went from these matches really don't have any major implications. I know we just talked about The Fiend beating Seth Rollins at a show in 2019, but for the most part, they didn't early on, and then they did. And then they just became part of the schedule. Champion versus champion matches where nothing really changes is way more exhibition house showy to me than being part of the regular schedule. However, they had Gunther come down. And I think this was Gunther's best non-wrestling performance of his entire WWE run. He comes out and they put Goldberg, and they had legends there all night long. Up in the thing, the suite, in the crowd, and they sit Goldberg down. And he's there with his kid. I think it was his wife sitting next to him. I think. And they put him there. And they didn't put him with DDP, and they didn't put him with Scott Steiner, and they didn't put him with Jacqueline. They didn't put Bill right here. And Gunther gets the crowd in the palm of his hand. There was this sarcastic smirk, like he knew exactly what he was going to do. I knew exactly what he was going to do, but the way he delivered it with such snark and turning his nose up at Goldberg, like, how could you possibly be my favorite wrestler? Me? Do you see what I do in this ring? And you're no. So in the span of what, a month, Gunther gets heat on Brett using Goldberg, and then Goldberg. Fantastic. And he talks trash, and he talks about his son, and blah, blah, blah. And Goldberg, and he talks about being a father, and Goldberg hops the rail. And here you go. The place went nuts. And Gunther's going, come on, let's go. And he says the line, I got 3 minutes for you. Come on in. I lost it. If you are unconvinced that Gunther is a top-tier main eventer, I thought that segment totally sold. If you go, he's boring. No, you didn't watch that. You didn't watch that guy do pro wrestling stuff. Not about the match. He talked trash to a Hall of Famer where a guy is well known. He didn't use, oh, we're in Atlanta, these people smell and stink. No. He went after the Hall of Famer. You know why? Because he was allowed to. Just like he was allowed to stand up to DX. Just like he was allowed to say what he said to Bret Hart. That is how you book up-and-comers. The stars are going to be there forever with Hall of Famers. Don't have to have egg on their face. And they get that. And I went, okay, so we're getting Gunther and Goldberg at some point. Because obviously, this is a Saudi match. But it can't be a Saudi match because they basically just announced Cody versus Gunther. Okay. And then Sami Zayn runs in. And we push to Raw. I don't think Sami's winning tonight. I know some people think, is it a possibility that Goldberg costs Gunther tonight? I would hope not. Because, once again, we got to come back to Gunther's wrestling Cody next month. He's probably going in as the underdog. We know Cody is the guy. So you got to be careful about this. Is it a Saturday night's main event match? Is it a Netflix day one match? Goldberg's not beating Gunther. He sure as hell shouldn't. But I thought, as much as I know people don't necessarily want to see Goldberg anymore, I thought it was a very well done segment. And once again, Gunther more than holds his own, dominates a segment with a veteran, gets the exact crowd reaction we're looking for, and they're looking for, and he builds to his match on Raw. I don't know what a Gunther Goldberg match is. I have a morbid curiosity about how that gets done. I don't know if that's your Goldberg retirement match. I will say I have had nothing but good interactions with Bill Goldberg. I know He rubs people the wrong way. He has certainly said some dumb things outside of wrestling in the last couple of months. But Bill Goldberg, the wrestler and the guy who does, he cares, and he's been very generous with his time. I interviewed him multiple times. I still give him credit. WrestleMania 37, excuse me. He was supposed to be on watch along from his house for Drew and Bobby Lashley, and that is the rain delay. And he stays on with us for 45 to 50 minutes. He didn't have to. He canceled his wedding anniversary plans that night and then stayed with us and literally just shot the shit because I think he got to see that match was 12, 13 minutes long, but he was also just on there and shooting the shit, and he was great. And he didn't have to do that. And he's done plenty of interviews, and we had Jinder in studio, and Goldberg was on, and they ended up having a really nice interaction. Really nice. Like, not what you would expect. Not that they were going to face off. They weren't. It was, hey, there's Jinder and Goldberg. Goldberg and Ron Simmons they had a nice interaction. So, like, he's very good with his time outside the ring. I've heard wonderful stories about him. So I think sometimes you got to separate that. That's all I would say. I'm not saying you have to be excited to watch Goldberg match 2024. I'm just saying separate the character from the human. But also realize that guy still gets a pop. The picture, and I'm sure it's been beaten multiple times over at this point, the picture of Goldberg holding the Blue Universal Championship when he beat the Fiend in Saudi Arabia in 2020, when everyone was like, oh, Goldberg, the most liked picture in WWE history. He still clicks well. He's still a big star. He was lightning in a bottle. And you know what? That level of how important and how popular he was, that will never go away. People, there's a fondness for Goldberg and how big of a deal he was. They did those TV Guide covers. Austin, Taker, Sable, and Bill Goldberg. Bill, if you weren't around, I don't think you realize how big of a deal he was. And that's why the reactions are still there. And that's why people hold on to those memories. What that looks like with him and Gunther, we will see. I got a couple of your comments here. I want to get to these. Sorry. Nerdy dude. Hang on. I know that Matt Books is your segment, but hear me out. Run in from Raquel because Liv gets squashed by Nia. Raquel takes out Nia, and then Tiffany cashes in. Okay. I get it. I think you can make that interesting. I think you can. Once again, there's a lot of stuff going on there, but it at least adds some layers to it. I want to go back to SmackDown. The dumpster match is absolutely 100% worth your time. Go watch it. It is so well done. It is so fun. The finish is so good. Like, I went, whoa, okay. Like, it was. Chelsea Green is pound for pound maybe the most consistently good performer in the company in terms of what she's asked to do and how she executes it and how she is more than willing to have egg on her face. More than willing to look like a moron or a fool or whatever you want to call it. She gets it. The gear, Let's not forget she hit a coast to coast in that match. I remember when RVD hit that first coast to coast, the Van Terminator, on Scotty Riggs. I remember it. And I remember seeing that grainy footage over and over and over again and how big of a deal that was. And now in 2024, Chelsea Green's hitting it in a 20-by-20 ring, might I add, and hitting it in the middle of a match. And it was still great. My point is, like, that move when it happened in 2099, when RVD hit the first one, she's not as big or as tall, and she nailed it. And then that finish with the power bomb. Oh, gosh, she's going to hit her head. Great. Executed, so well from both women. Hats off to them. I don't know what this leads to for Michin, but Chelsea selling it after the fact. Chelsea selling it into Saturday. Piper was great. They're so good. It's a great act, and as I said before, Money in the Bank, I would have put that briefcase on Chelsea, and you have Piper defending her, and at some point, Piper gets fed up being second fiddle and defending Chelsea, and you can have that match. And who's to say they don't do it next year? But a lot of people are saying second-tier title and all that, and I get that. Chelsea feels like the right person. But you got to remember, a big part of why Chelsea is good and how she's presented is she doesn't get those moments. Now, typically, and there's been hints of this in her crowd reactions, if that happens enough, people feel bad and they start to like her. And I know that has been the case. But part of it is that she can be whiny about always, well, this happened or this. Even when she loses clean, it's delete this or whatever. She should get her moment someday. She should. And she will make so much of that when she does. Coach says, Matt, if you was named to pick a women's mid-card title, what would you call it, and who should be the first? I don't think there should be one. I'll start there. I like the TV title. I wouldn't want it to be Intercontinental. I wouldn't want it to be United States. International is obviously an AEW title. I like the Women's Television Championship. I think that's, if I would name it something, it would be the Women's Television Championship, yes. Which could be defended across all the shows, just like the top title should be, and that's a whole other battle. I wish there was one world champion per division. I wish there was one set of tag titles. It makes them mean more. Wrestling as a whole has too many titles. 2-hour Raw tonight. Woods and Jay should be good. Good step forward. I think Sammy and Gunther will have a hell of a match. But what are we building towards? Are we building towards Gunther and Cody? Are we building towards Gunther and Goldberg? Is it both? Is Goldberg get involved? What's the follow-up here? What's next for Priest? What's next for Rhea? What's next for Liv? Can they try to make chicken salad out of chicken shit with the Raquel, Rhea, Liv finish from the other night? We will tune in and find out. And remember, tomorrow night, NXT on CW with Randy and Javon Evans. That's in St. Louis. And at the same time, Dynamite is on Tuesday night. So that will be an interesting head-to-head because it doesn't feel like NXT is that loaded up. Obviously, Randy on there is good, but look, they already have to move to a smaller building. But it doesn't feel like, and I'm a little surprised by this, NXT is as loaded up as I thought it would be. I know Bianca and Jade are on there, teaming with Kalani against Fatal, Toxic Attraction, Solution, Detention, whatever. But it's not a super loaded up show. And I'm a little surprised that an NXT show is not loaded up more against AEW. By the way, like I always say, it doesn't matter what AEW does as it relates to WWE's bottom line. Not even close, but they want those wins. AEW has not super loaded up there. It seems like it's another week for them, which is fine. That the one-on-one, the ratings battle of Tuesday night, as much as I'm talking about it right now, is a one-off and probably won't happen again for a very long time and really doesn't mean that much in the big picture. $850,000 people watching with a massive demo is a great. Last week was a great week for wrestling in terms of the CW number, the AEW TV deal, like all that stuff's good. It is a go-home week for AEW, as we know. With Wrestle Dream coming up, they've loaded up some more matches there. So that is important as well to sell that heading into the pay-per-view. But it doesn't seem like either show is trying to load up against the other. So don't go too nuts about that head-to-head on Tuesday night. But we'll preview that tomorrow. Any other news that is going down, we will get it all covered. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to the show via podcast form. Make sure you subscribe to the WrestlingMatchShow.com. That's free. Become a Matt member. We watched the NXT on CW debut last week. You're going to get some members-only videos, I believe, next week. I believe we have some stuff scheduled for next week. I will get that covered. We watched, like I said, the CW debut for NXT. We did 2 episodes, react to the Mr. McMahon Netflix doc. We're going to do a members-only live chat coming up in the next week or so. So be on the lookout for all of that. $2.99 a month gets you in there. $6.99 a month gets you the member shout-outs, the members-only video. You would have been there for the NXT watch-along last week. And the Matt event at $24.99. We connect with you on social media. We'll be doing a private Zoom with somebody. We're going to do a special watch-back. Wonder what that'll be. Should watch the first Dynamite, really. Would help to have access to that, though. But that's for $24.99. Come on over to the WrestlingMatchShow.com. Come check that out. By the way, if you're a member, you get discounts on our merch. ProWrestlingTees.com/TheWrestlingMat. Multiple colors available of our Wrestling Mat t-shirts. So go check those out as well. And if you're a member here at the Wrestling Mat, you get discount on that. Head over to the membership tab. You can check out what you need for the code there. Hit join down below. Leave a comment on what you thought. Throwing these questions out there once again. Do you want more clean finishes on a premium live event? Should Hell in a Cell have opened or closed the show? What'd you feel about the Rock appearance? 2-hour Raw. Yay or nay? And was Seth Rollins totally messed up by losing to The Fiend at Hell in a Cell 2019? You guys hit me up here on the chat. Appreciate the live chatters, but hit us up on social media or down below in the comments at WrestlingMat23 at the Matt Camp. Thanks for being with me. Thanks to everybody who's always out there watching. And as always, I'll be back tomorrow to talk about wrestling even more right here on the Wrestling Mat.